Hey everyone, what's it, Fox Gaming here. So I've got a build video today, a PvP build video that's similar to the video that I posted not too long ago, this week in fact, just after the launch of TU10. I titled that build video basically the meta PvP build. Now that build was a three-piece striker build just like this, and a lot of people are sort of gravitating more towards Foundry Bulwark, armor regen, tank builds. So, I've had a few people say, well, Strikers isn't meta because everyone's running Foundry, which is a fair comment. If that's the top build at the moment, it's hard to kill. But the reason that I stand by what I called that video is the striker build that I'm using now, so this is a slightly modified version, easily kills Foundry Bulwark builds. And so in my opinion, if a build is a meta counter, then therefore it in itself must be meta. So I just want to very quickly explain why this is the best counter to Foundry Bulwark, to those horrible armor regen builds with people running Intimidate on their chest and Perfect Adrenaline Rush on their backpack, so they're getting the blue overshield, charging in and getting the 35% extra damage while still being really tanky. Striker offers a lot of benefits. I've gone through this in several videos now, and you all know that I'm a big fan of weapon handling. I think it's a fantastic perk or stat since TU10, and there are many reasons why everybody should agree with that. It's just really good at the moment. So the point of this build is to drop a Foundry player before they're able to run around and get their heals back up. Because it's not a face tanking build like the old efficient meta, against what a lot of people think. And if they are face tanking you, then it might mean that your build isn't optimized. What you need is a way to input burst damage very quickly. The way that a Foundry Bulwark user will be able to get away with not dying is if they start to take some damage, they'll pop their shield, and if they take any more damage, they will just run around for a little bit. What you need to do in that window where they're not firing at you is to get in their face and gun them down quickly with high burst, so high rate of fire weapons, SMG builds. My old build with Strikers uses a shotgun, and that's fantastic for pretty much anything that's not a Foundry player. It just drops people so quickly, but it's not great against Foundry players because it's not... Yes, a shotgun is burst damage because it does all its damage in one shot, but if you don't land all of your pellets or you miss or you're reloading, it doesn't quite sort of hit the mark. The point of this build is it's both sustained and burst damage all in one because it's an AR build. So what I've done here is I've decided to go for the Eagle Bearer for the headshot damage. This build relies on you being able to hit your headshots because Foundry Bulwark users are using shields, and for the most part they're not using the Bulwark shield, they're still using traditional weapons, so to really take advantage of Intimidate, so they'll be using SMGs or ARs, or potentially a high rate of fire shotgun. That means their head is exposed because they're using this shield, the Crusader or the Striker. So this build relies on you being able to apply very high damage in a very small window, but sustaining that burst damage. So it's there's no break in the damage window, which just doesn't allow their regeneration to really kick in. The way that I achieve this is I use a perk called Concussion. Now Concussion is very I think it's sort of slipped under the radar a little bit. It's a really good talent, and it actually works in a way that a lot of people don't realise. So I'll read the description and I'll explain exactly what this means. Headshots increase total weapon damage by 10% for 1.5 seconds. Now that is buffed to 5% if you use marksman rifles. I know a lot of people think this is a marksman only talent, and I'm going to show to you in the next game that I load into why it is not. So when you're just popping headshots, you're going to get 10% weapon damage for 1.5 seconds. No weapon swapping with versatile, so you're not losing out on that damage by having to swap. No vigilance, nothing like that. If you actually get a headshot kill, you then get a 15% damage buff for 10 seconds. Now it's not very well known, but these two stack with each other, so you can have 25% weapon damage by getting a kill and then continuing to shoot into somebody else's head. Now, a few of my clan members, and I think the community in general, aren't a big fan of perks that rely on you getting a kill in order to proc the damage. That's why Intimidate is popular at the moment. Versatile and Vigilance have always been really popular because they don't require you to get a kill, it's just free damage. Concussion is a combination of a damage buff on kill as well as just an initial damage buff. So it actually has two parts that stack with each other, so just bear that in mind. I do still run Unbreakable on the chest piece because I still think it's best in slot and it just gives you that bit of extra survivability. I traditionally run Punch Drunk here, but just for the extra headshot damage, but I've actually swapped out to Coyotes because whilst this isn't a critical hit chance and damage build, if you look at my stats here, I'm about 51% critical hit chance and 100% critical hit damage, and that's just going to buff that to 60 and 110 under relatively optimal conditions, because of course the 15 to 25 meters is 10% critical hit damage and chance, but even if it's closer range than that, it's still going to hit me at 60%. But another great option is Punch Drunk. This is 20% headshot damage, 20% pistol damage from Douglas and Harding, which is kind of irrelevant, but I'm not getting a gear set trait from Coyotes anyway, so it's not like I'd be losing out by swapping it off. So that's a really good alternative here. I just like this because it helps my team out, so I feel this is a really good option. Eagle Bearer is absolutely your weapon of choice here. It's really good headshot damage. I do have a very well rolled Carbine 7, which is one of my favourite ARs that also has headshot damage. I've rolled Preservation on this because if I do need to swap to this weapon, it usually means that my enemy is low. It also works really well in the dark zone. If I'm just clearing landmarks, I'll use this because it keeps my health topped off. But against players, I'll use Eagle Bearer, and that's true for Conflict. 98% of the time I'll just be on Eagle Bearer. Strikers is going to give me the 15% weapon handling and the 15% rate of fire, and I don't bother with the 4-piece because I don't feel it works very well in PvP. It's not too bad in PvE at the moment. It works really well against sort of heavies and dogs because you build your stacks really easily, but in PvP it's just not very reliable. I'd rather sort of have the 3 pieces here that I can mix and match. I still run Gunner because I still think it's one of the best specialization classes to run. I like the increased rate of fire, the increased reload speed, and in the dark zone I like the ammo regen. It does also give you armor on kill as well, which stacks with preservation. I'll still be using the shield just because it makes me a bit more tanky, and then an EMP jammer to essentially break their shields. So yeah, I do stand by my previous video. I do think that 3-piece strikers is the meta because it's countering one of the more dominant meta sets, which is Foundry Bulwark with armor regen, and in my opinion that's what justifies that title. Now yes, you do need to have relatively good accuracy for this to be viable, and I play on Xbox, if you all didn't know that. My accuracy isn't amazing, but that's the point of this game. If you want to be good, you need to practice your aim, you need to practice your positioning, get good with your builds. In terms of settings, I'll actually quickly show you that as well. I do run, so I always have my camera sensitivity at 20 because I feel that you need to be able to turn around very quickly, but I have my aim sensitivity quite a fair bit lower. You can snapshot in this game as well, which on console at least, which is where you come out of your ADS and then go straight back into it. If you're close to your target and you're within your weapon's optimal range, it will just snapshot straight back onto them. But for the most part, I just track their head as best as humanly possible. I tend to have my dead zones set at 0 each because I remember watching, I think it was Nothing But Skills, he posted a video right back at the launch of the game sort of saying that dead zone is not that great in this game, the dead zone settings, and try and have it at 0 or 1. I think it was Nothing But Skills, it might have been somebody else, but I tested that and that's accurate. So if you can set your dead zone to 0 or 1, unless you've got a really bad controller, I do find that helps quite a lot, and then you want to base your sensitivity off that. So if you're running default settings, your dead zone will be at 6. Turn that to 0, see what it does to your aim. If you're overshooting, just lower it. One of the best players I know in this game, I won't name any names just in case he doesn't want to be named, but I've played with him in the dark zone and he sent me some clips and his headshot tracking is insane. He 1v4'd my squad when we were trying to extract several times, and he was ridiculous with a very high armor build back in TU 8 and 9. And watching his clips, he just didn't miss headshots. Even if we were dodge rolling, his tracking was insane. And he ran his ADS sensitivity at 7 with his camera sensitivity at 20. So don't feel that you need to be at 20/20 to be accurate. You need to set a setting that allows you to track headshots quite accurately and consistently. And that doesn't need to necessarily be very high. In fact, lower is usually better on console anyway. Takes a bit of getting used to, but now I do run this build with 3 blues and 3 reds because I want the extra damage, and I don't feel that I need the extra armour. The reason for that is because Strikers has such a great rate of fire. If anybody does run at you with the blue overshield and intimidate, you're going to burn that straight off before they can get within the 10 meters anyway. So you don't need to be super tanky with this build, and your shield does help out in that department anyway. So I might potentially consider changing that as the as TU10 sort of sorry, as the game sort of goes on and maybe the meta potentially changes. So this build is definitely open to changes, but as it stands, this exact combination that I'm running seems to completely dominate Foundry players. Now, once again, this is a live stream on Twitch with live commentary, so you know, I'm never playing at my best when I play this way, but as with all my videos, and I know I say this a lot, I do like to show off a build in its entirety under normal circumstances, just so that you can see where I do well and where I do badly, and the weaknesses of the build. So team follow me. My guess is they've gone up top here. Okay. Oh, shock trap. I like your style, dude.
Rogue assault turret detected.
The hell is everyone? What a strange game.
Rogue hive detected.
Don't think I've ever come across this before.
Rogue shock trap detected.
Yeah, we know where they are now, so.
Rogue incinerator turret detected.
So there's the Eagle Bearer prop. So yeah, you see that instant melt there with the high sustainability that I've got. And because concussion stacks with itself, honestly, it's such a good perk to run. What a strange game. This is really unusual. Very, very passive. I'm used to such hyper-aggressive games, particularly all these tank builds, that this is actually a little bit out of character for conflict.
Boost now active. Rogue seeker mine detected. Allies are acquiring the boost. The boost has been taken by allies.
That'll be a bear perk. Double kill. Yeah, this is a tank player, so this is a good example of this. Triple kill. Nice, nice, nice. I'll have to try and get some Dark Zone footage, because my team were sort of going manhunt yesterday, and this build was just destroying all of the tanks. It was fantastic.
The enemy is about to be pulled out. You're too strong for this.
Yeah, crazy melt. Insane melt. And that unbreakable just saved my life there. So yeah, please don't feel, you know, a lot of my clan are a bit annoyed with the season, because we were all happy that the efficient meta was over, the whole unkillable tank, and then everyone's all of a sudden seeing tank builds again. You know, please don't let that deter you off the game. Build diversity is what keeps this game alive, and most of my videos are just about trying out different builds. But you know, I really, really do like Strikers at the moment. I think with the weapon handling buff, it just makes your EB an absolute laser. And this headshot build is phenomenal. There are so many different ways that you can build it as well. You could just go for high crit chance and not even worry about Strikers. I just like it for the handling, because I get the extra reload. the stability, the weapon swap speed if needed. It's just a great perk.
I'm sending you a specialization supply round.
Agent down.
Oh no, we had a death. No. There we go. So that was a bit of a passive game, which is a bit boring. I was kind of hoping for some, a few more tank builds. They had one tanky guy there. But yeah, honestly, just give this build a shot. Please don't be deterred by the tank meta. If this build counters then enough people use it, then that meta will be dead anyway, and it will then promote a bit more build diversity, because people try and make builds that counter striker. They might start going for sort of full skill builds, or and that's what I love about this game, the fact that you can really mix and match your builds, and if you know how to play it, and understand why builds are the meta. So by all means try out Foundry and play with it and understand why it is meta, but don't think that they're unkillable, because they are absolutely not. The only time I've ever struggled against the tank team was when they had a designated healer. There's just nothing I could do about that, but then no build would have done anything about that unless we had a hyper coordinated team that gunned the healer down first. But they were really good, the healer placed himself really well. So there you go, big damage there, 22 million, no deaths. Admittedly my position weren't amazing, which probably didn't demonstrate the build to its full strength, but it did demonstrate just how quickly it can burn down a tank. And I also wanted to highlight how concussion works. It's not a sniper rifle talent, it does stack with itself. You can hit 25% weapon damage after a kill, and you've got 10% before that, so try it out, it's phenomenal. I've had quite a few subscriptions over the last days, so I really appreciate all the support. I've literally just been doing these YouTube videos during lockdown as a way to keep myself occupied and to try and promote build diversity, but I really appreciate the love and support. And any further subscriptions and likes, share these videos to your friends if you like the content, and please let me know in the comments what you think to the build and anything else. Well, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.